play for a team that legitimately just won, had a coach of the year, an offensive player of the year, and a defensive player of the year. I mean, that's the type of team that you're going to want to go to if push comes to shove. If you're going, say you're weighing your options, it's the Rams, it's returning back to the Broncos, or you go to the Lions or somebody. Like for I'm talking Talib wise or somebody like that. I mean, the Rams have got to be, a decent destination. Besides the fact that they're in Los Angeles, now you look at it. It's starting to come together. They're starting, they have these pieces, and they have the coaching staff. It's really interesting to me because it really caught a lot of people's attention. And I mean, how could it not when you have three guys from the organization win big time awards?
Yeah, and when they get up on that days and they're accepting the award, they're congratulating their coach. They're happy to see. I think that to me is an advertisement for the Rams when Gurley is interviewed and Donald is interviewed during the process. An aside, I thought it was really cool that they were talking about their high school coaches and where they came from. That was pretty cool. And then they also talk about McVay, and then McVay in turn kind of deflects and says, yes, he called his award a team award. And he also said that, part of the great, occasion was that, you coach these great players and you get to see them have success. And so, I think that was really an advertisement for the Rams because you had two of the best players in the league, up there on, national television on the days talking about, once again, how Sean McVay has affected their life. They've achieved the kind of, this great individual honor because of the situation. Whereas, in previous years, you could argue that the situation was holding these players back.
You definitely could. So I want to ask you guys this question. We talked about the NFL honors a little bit. How likely is it that those three guys repeat?
I'll go first. I don't think it's likely. I mean, Coach of the Year, because the thing about it is you've got Belichick. We were talking about Peterson with one vote. I think Belichick got one vote. So if Bill Belichick isn't really in it for Coach of the Year, I don't. I think I think Sean's got his award, and they can move on from there. Donald. If I'm going to pick one, I'll pick Donald as being most likely to repeat because I think he's the one who's going to. To me, he still hasn't reached his ceiling. I think if Gurley does, Gurley's talking about 2,500 yards and more touchdowns, but I don't know. I think the easiest one to kind of repeats Donald because I think he can have an even better year, and if he has an even better year, say he goes out and gets 15 sacks next year and is just as dominant, I think they're going to have to give him that award. Whereas Gurley, I think it's going to be hard for him to kind of have this sort of production year after year after year, especially as this offense kind of matures and you see some of these younger receivers keep going.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. Donald is, I think, most likely to repeat. You look at Sean McVay and the Coach of the Year award, and you just see that the Coach of the Year award is sort of this like one-off award almost. I mean, Belichick could arguably win that award every year because, as like him or hate him, he's one of the greatest coaches of all time, and he pulls the rabbit out of his hat every year. So, but he doesn't win it. He always gets a vote or two, and everybody talks about him in it, but he doesn't win. So I think McVay gets that award. He takes it home, and that's gonna be something he can hang his hat on. Yeah, he won that award. And then Gurley, it's just there's too many weapons in this league. I think Gurley could totally win it again, but there's just so many weapons and so many things can happen that next year it could be Antonio Brown, it could be a quarterback. It's hard to say. There's just so much turnover there as far as production goes. But Donald has been so steady over the course of his young career. I mean, he could have won it any year other than his first one when he won off defensive player rookie of the year. I mean, he could have won it every single season, but he didn't because he doesn't get a lot of optics on that position because there's not a lot of flashy stats. He just wrecks games where he's at, and he finally got some recognition. But if he gets some stats, like Joe was saying, if he picks up 15 sacks from that spot, yeah, he should win it again.
Yeah, no, I certainly agree with that. The issue was with him. It was the winning, and now the Rams are winning. I said that. It's funny. Facebook always tells you, oh, a year ago you said this, and I'm like, yep, I remember saying it. Until the Rams win, Aaron Donald won't get his hardware, because that's what happened. When they awarded Khalil Mack the award. And then you had J.J. Watt the 2 years there, and Von Miller and guys like that. So it's hard, even though Aaron Donald is, the best defensive player in the league. It's still hard to win it, year in and year out. And I think exactly what you said with Belichick. I think it's pretty much, who improved the most as far as team. That's the guy that's going to get Coach of the Year. Like next year, I think Matt Nagy has a shot. If the Bears go like 10-6, I think he's probably the favorite because that'd be a complete flip flop of going 6-10 or 5-11 or whatever they went. I think it's just that type of award. But moving on, now the season's officially over. There's no more football. It's depressing, but there's always the next step. The NFL never is, certainly done. And, with that being said, free agency's coming, but, first and foremost, the Rams got to decide who they're bringing back before they test the market. Guys, I'll ask you first, Joe. And then, James, you can take over after that. Who do you think the Rams are prioritizing right now?
I'm going to give you kind of a different sort of answer. Rather than give you which player, I'm going to. So I think with because I was really surprised when out of everything that was happening and all the guys that they could have signed during the season, the one that got done was Tree, and I think a lot of people were probably similarly surprised. And I think that got done because because it could get done or it was I think they're going to prioritize who's going to come to their terms. So I think we're going to find out which of these players wants to stay here and stay here at the Rams numbers. The first guys who are going to get done are the ones that are going to kind of accept the deals, kind of toward the terms that the Rams want to offer them. Because like we know, there's too many, there's just too many choices that have to be made and there's not enough money. There's just too much work to be done and really not enough time to do it. So we're going to find out which of these players want to be here, I think. And I think that's and I'll have some other stuff. Let's give James a shot. James, what do you think? Who do you think they're prioritizing?
Well, I think the priority needs to be Joyner. The guy was top 3 safety in the league, and he just really locks down the back end of that secondary. And his impact on the defense is second only to Donald. But I think when it comes down to it, that I have to agree with you that the players that want to stay are the ones that are going to stay. That are going to get signed first. And it's not like the Rams are sitting around going one by one by one. They're putting offers on the table to each of these guys, and we're only going to know about the ones that signed first. So that's what we're going to be seeing as prioritizing people who want to stay most. So I absolutely agree with you there, but I think Joyner needs to be the priority.
Now, if I was going to make a priority, the priority I would make is you kind of have to pick between you, and you made your pick between Joyner and True, because I don't know if they can sign both of those guys. And this kind of goes to Jake's next thing is because I would prioritize True, because even though we know that that's probably not what they're doing, because I think he's the one that's going to be the toughest to replace.
That's fair.
I definitely agree with that, and I'm actually really leaning towards True now. I think Sammy Watkins is going to end up leaving now. I kind of just have that feeling. Could be wrong.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I've been, and I don't want to read too much into social media, but I've been seeing it. I've seen this movie before, Janoris Jenkins. It kind of seems, like Sammy Watkins has those indirects going on at the Rams. So I don't know. He changed his profile picture back to him in a Bills uniform. I don't know.
Did he?
Yeah, I see.
Oh.
I look at it like this: if Sammy Watkins leaves, that trade was really bad, and that's the issue. I think, that trade has really put them in a rough spot, and I think maybe it was almost that they were so comfortable with not having a pick last year that they'll make it work. But I mean, you got to keep in mind they have the 23rd pick, so. I mean, I did the numbers because they have the draft values, the trade value chart, and that's the value chart that like the NFL uses when making trades and whatnot. And every pick is graded, and they have a certain monetary a certain number, and there's really no way the Rams can trade out of the first round. Trade down in the first round and get a second round pick back. They would completely have to trade out of the first round. So they're probably not going to have a second round pick, and they'll probably gain an extra third. I would imagine that's what they're going to do. But still, you're talking about you grab, say, a corner, and now you're looking at kind of the next tier of edge guys in the second round that I would almost rather have than the guys in the first round, just off of value. Those guys are going to be gone, and then I think you're dipping into the third tier of edge rushers. And, I mean, the same could be said at other positions, center, for instance. I think there are only, a couple really, really good centers. So, that trade really sucks. And especially, the way the way E.J. Gaines played. Because E.J. Gaines was rated a top 15 corner by Pro Football Focus. He was awesome this year, next to Trey White. So it's uncertain if the Bills are going to get him. If the Bills get,
he'll probably walk.
If the Bills get Sammy Watkins back, though, that is an issue. I don't know if the Rams can allow that, and I can almost see the Rams tagging him if he does want to leave and just try. But I mean, it's hard to imagine, because when you look at it, this is his first year in the playoffs with this team. You had to have been living it up in L.A. You had to have been living it up with a quarterback like Jared Goff. You didn't have that type of, team around you in Buffalo. And look, I get like he didn't have the targets, but I think that's something that's going to improve, and I think Goff did miss him at times. Now, you could look at the playoffs, and, I mean, Sammy Watkins dropped 2 touchdowns in that game. So, I mean, it's not all on Goff. It's not all on anybody. I mean, it's a team sport. It doesn't all, fall on one player. But, yeah, Joe, I think Sammy Watkins might leave, and I'm starting to wonder if the Rams bring back Trumaine Johnson because, I mean, Ian Wharton, actually, a friend of the podcast, he graded all of the corners, and he rated Trumaine Johnson the number 1 corner press man. Now, I know he didn't play a ton of it, but this is what I've been saying on the podcast, Joe. This guy, you put him in someone's grill, and he's going to, make him pay. He's going to give you your money's worth. It's when you put him off the ball, that's kind of, off the man, that's kind of the issue. So, that's my take for you guys. But, why is no one talking about John Sullivan and Nickel Roby-Coleman? It's like no one's worried, or it's like they forget that they're free agents. Like, what's up with that?
Well, I think Nickel definitely wants to come back, and he might. It all depends on that number. To me, I think there's a decent shot that Sully retires. But if he doesn't retire, I would assume he'd be back. He certainly had even though he made it through the year, he was kind of the one guy on the line who got banged up a little bit. So it might have been a struggle for him. But we'll see about that. The interesting, I want to go back to the Watkins thing a little bit. Really, is it really just the investment made? Is that the main reason why you want to give him another year? Because the thing about it is, since there is, so many, only so much money for all these different decisions. Say Watkins is the guy that doesn't come back. Then